let's go ahead and get started. I would like to introduce our presenter to you all. Daniel Guim is an educator with 14 years of experience teaching in the United States and Chile. Prior to moving to Chile, he taught kindergarten, Spanish and German in public schools in California and New Jersey. Okay, based in Santiago, he has worked in private schools, institutes, universities, and the Chilean IRS. So there you go. In addition to teaching, he has run workshops to help teachers improve their practice and go freelance, and is one half of the ELT in Chile podcast. Okay. One half of the podcast. I think I understand that now. He holds a BA in German and Spanish and MA in teaching from Occidental College, as well as Occidental. Okay, I'm not sure. I'm switching from Spanish to English in my brain. As well as single subject and multiple subject teaching credentials from the state of California. Okay, so there's a little bit of background. This session is titled An Introduction to Self-Care. Okay, so we're excited to hear from Daniel. I will go ahead and turn it over to you, Daniel.
Thank you so much, Christina. Thank you, Relo Andes Change, for this opportunity. We see here we are on a Sunday afternoon, maybe late Sunday morning for some people, late Sunday evening, depending where you're connecting from. So Christina gave a little bit of information about my background. And so here we see that same information. Just to give you some context, I've been working completely independently since 2015. But the thing is, I only really started practicing self-care about 3 years ago. And I didn't realize how much of an impact that made on my actual life and on my teaching. So I want to make it clear. Do I have all the answers to everything? No, I do not. So my context is probably unique compared to a lot of other people because I am teaching freelance. I am my own boss. So I'm not going to a university. I'm not going to a school. I am single, living alone. So I don't have a lot of those family obligations that other people have to do, have to take care of. So you know your context, you know what is happening in your life. So I encourage you to take what you can from this workshop and make it work for you. All right, so I'd like to show a quick video about self-care. And this is actually from Friends. 1 minute. And let's see. Is everyone able to see this in YouTube now? Okay.
I can see it.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and play this short video. And here, Chandler and Monica are a couple. And she is trying to convince him to take a bath as a way of relaxing. Let's see how the conversation goes.
Hey!
Boy, do I have a surprise for you.
Sex on the balcony?
No, but someone's really not going to get over that idea, are they?
What is it?
I drew you a bath.
Honey, I don't like baths. Could you draw me a picture of us having sex on the balcony?
Please, you just try it for me. Come on, I used all my best stuff. I lit some candles, I put on some music, I used bath salts plus bubble bath, and got you this little plastic Navy ship. So it's a boy bath.
This does butch it up a bit.
I swear, if you try it, you will love it.
All right, if I do this, can we at least discuss sex on the balcony?
Absolutely. I don't know how that discussion's going to go.
All right, this isn't so bad. I like the flowery smell. Which is okay because I've got my boat.
So?
Oh my God.
I told you were a bath person. Hey, when you get out, maybe I can give you a facial.
I'm gonna need a bigger boat.
Hello?
I'm in the bathroom. Can you come in here? I think there's something wrong.
You know what? I think I'll wait out here.
I'm in the bathtub.
Oh. Hey, what's wrong?
I drew my own bath, but I did it wrong. The water's tepid, the salt didn't dissolve, and is now lodged places. And the scents I use don't complement each other. Eucalyptus and chamomile? Oh.
What?
The bath salts. They're starting to effervesce. It's different. It's interesting.
Okay.
All right. So, obviously, there is some toxic masculinity in there. And the thing is with this, we do see that he doesn't like the idea of baths, but then afterwards he realizes how much he actually likes them. But the thing is, that's not all there is to self-care, but I think that's what people think of, right? So what we're going to take a look at in this workshop is what is and isn't self-care. An interesting question, how much rest do we need? The different domains of self-care. We'll do an activity with Padlet. I'd like to get some of your feedback, learn about your experiences. We'll take a look at a self-care record. And, afterwards, we'll see journaling as a tool for self-care, the role of boundaries in self-care, and self-care as an educator. I'll share some resources, and then I'll answer any questions that you have. All right. So what is self-care? So the way I think of this, it's the way of recognizing and taking care of our needs in the various dimensions of our life. It's not something that's short-term, it's a long-term orientation, a lifestyle. So now I think we all know the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Now, how many of you know the platinum rule? How I treat myself is training others how to treat me. So, if you're staying late at work and if you're accepting other assignments from your boss and things like that, other people are going to pick up on that and say, oh, if I need help with work, I know that this person will help me, right? So if you're allowing yourself to overwork, that's going to allow others to think that they can depend on you. So these quotes are not mine. They're from a very, very wise person, Michael Bernard Beckwith. He was a minister and founder of the Agape International Spiritual Center. And I got this from one of the books that I'll share with you at the end of the talk. So what is self-care? It's a lifelong daily process, a lifelong daily practice, and this changes over time as we change. And this is something that needs our attention and thought. And this lines up nicely if we think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We need water, food, shelter, all those things. We need to feel safe. We need a job, or at least some way of making money, right? And then as we get up there, the ideas become more and more abstract. But ideally, we're taking care of those needs. We're making sure that they're met. So what isn't self-care? So I think that this is something that people sometimes misuse or they misunderstand. So canceling social plans or commitments at the last minute on a regular basis because we want to stay in. So unfortunately, this is something that happened with a former friend where we would have plans and then it became a pattern that she would cancel at the last minute because she said she needed a self-care day. Eating or drinking to the point of being sick as a way of making up for a difficult day or week. So, I mean, there's space, I think, for enjoying food. There is space for enjoying drink, but to the point of being sick is probably a little bit extreme in terms of self-care. Buying things when we're stressed or anxious to make us feel better. In one of the books I read, these ideas of eating and drinking excessively, buying things. They talk about the idea of, I had a bad day, so I deserve a pony. And I know I'm certainly guilty of thinking that way and acting in accordance with that, right? Sleeping, binge watching, or any other type of behavior in excess that we use to escape reality on a regular basis. So maybe eating pizza and watching Netflix, maybe one weekend a month is okay. But if we're doing that every single weekend, that's probably not an exercise in self-care. It's becoming more of a lifestyle and more about escapism. And it's more than just these service level things like relaxing baths, face masks, body creams. All right, so now I have a really, really interesting question here. And I've been looking through the books that I read, and I can't find the exact answer, or the exact source where this was. How much rest does a person need? For every day that we work, we need a 1 hour break. That makes sense, right? I imagine everyone agrees with that. For every week that we work, we need 1 day to rest. Also makes sense, I imagine. So now, for every 8 to 12 weeks that we work, we need 1 week to rest. So think about that for a second. How does that fit in with your current work schedule? So now I can't see the chat now because I am sharing my screen, but I imagine people are probably thinking that this doesn't fit in. So with the pandemic, I think one thing that we did see that's very positive, at least that's happened in Chile, is that some universities, for every 4 or 5 weeks of classes, students got 1 week off. And so they staggered these breaks, and they really realized that students and teachers all needed a break, right? So, all right, let's take a look at these different dimensions of self-care. Very quickly, we have mental health and emotions, physical health, your personal and family relationships, work relationships, your home environment, work environment, your possessions, both physical and digital, your finances, free time activities, and then a sense of spirituality and community. So if we take a look, mental health, emotions. So how do you handle your emotions? How do you handle difficult situations? Are you handling them in a healthy way? So Mary Schultz, she gave an amazing talk we saw earlier today as the keynote, and the idea of meditation, deep breathing. These things can really help us to stay centered and to take control of our emotions and keep them in check. Also, therapy is great. I think that we don't realize the challenges that we've gone through. And sometimes we've been through very traumatic experiences that really affect how we interact with the world. And there is no shame in going to therapy or anything like that. I've been in therapy since college up until now, on and off. And so it's really helped me to learn about myself, learn about my past, and really become the person that I want to be. So now talking about our physical health. Oops, let me go back a moment. So we obviously have our body. So what type of physical condition are we in? But not only that, the clothes that we wear. Do we wear clothes that fit our body as opposed to trying to fit in the clothes that we have that maybe fit pre-pandemic, but that don't fit now? So this is something that I was guilty of. And I said, you know what? This is the weight I'm at now. This is the way my body is now. So I am going to fit clothes. I'm going to buy clothes that fit comfortably and that fit my body at this moment. And doing that, it just gave me a lot less of judgment about myself. And it made me just feel better overall. And then, of course, obviously, our diet, what we choose to eat, staying hydrated. So one thing that I would like to share, let's see here. So if we take a look here, I bought something on my last trip to the States. This is like a little bento box. And so what I've done is I had a salad for lunch today, and actually I have two of these. One is in the fridge, got my salad here. I've got my tomatoes and cucumber here, and I've got my lunch set for the next few days. So something small, yeah. But while I'm cooking and while I'm preparing, I might as well go ahead and prepare a few other things to make my life easier a little bit later in the week. All right, going back to screen sharing and going back to the PowerPoint. So we see, obviously, the food that we choose to eat, right? Staying hydrated is really important. And then yoga or some type of physical exercise, movements, right? This is obviously no surprise to anyone, right? So the next thing, personal and family relationships. So there's a lot to this. First off, do we have the time to spend with family and friends, right? But also, what is the quality of those relationships? Are we around people that are bringing us up, or at least are neutral? Or are we around people that are toxic, that are cutting us down, that are critical, that give backhanded compliments, that don't support our dreams and goals? This is difficult because if those people are family members, you can't necessarily cut them out of your life, but you can certainly limit the type of contact you have with them. And then here's something else also. How many people do you see on a day-to-day basis? When you go out, if you live in an apartment building, do you say hello to the doorman? Do you thank them, for opening and closing the door for you? Do you have a post office person that you see that you get to greet? Those little interactions with people, that contributes to our happiness. So our next thing, work relationships. So obviously, this picture is from pre-pandemic. What type of relationships do we have with our students? How do we establish those relationships online if we're teaching online? And what type of relationships do we have with our coworkers? So if we look at this picture, these people, it looks like they're having a very enjoyable conversation at lunch. Is that your reality? So now, unfortunately, I've been at schools and I've been at jobs where the norm has been a lot of gossip, making fun of people, talking about them behind their back. I felt if I went to eat lunch with colleagues that I wouldn't really enjoy the conversation. But if I just went and ate on my own, then it was talked about behind my back. So not really a great work environment to be around. Thankfully, I'm no longer in that position, but we can choose who we associate with at work. Our next thing, our home environment. So hopefully nobody's home looks like this, but at the same time, I don't think it's realistic to expect people's homes to look like this either. Particularly people working from home, people that have children. My apartment does not look anything like this one on the left. It does not look anything like this to the right either. I would say it's somewhere in the middle. But one thing that we find is that we have something called outer order contributing to inner calm. And you'll probably notice that once things are neat and organized, in your mind, you just feel more relaxed. So if you can take some time to clean up the clutter, to maybe organize things, put things away, it really makes you feel a lot lighter. So moving on, what we also have, our work environment. So if we take a look at this office, as opposed to a work from home situation like this, obviously, these are very, very different pictures, very different situations. But if you look, what are the thoughts that run through your mind when you look at this picture, right, of this office on the left, right? Probably a lot of chaos, disorder, right? Whereas if you take a look at the right one, you probably just want to sigh a breath of relief, right? And so we can choose this. Another thing with our home environment and our work environment. So we can also control the temperature and comfort. So I will share one more thing, stop sharing my screen and going back to the camera. So one thing that I have here in Chile that I found is, this is like a little kind of like foot thing. So in the cold weather, I have this on the floor. I can put my feet in and keep my feet nice, warm, and toasty in the wintertime. I love this thing, and it's something so small. but it's something that makes me feel so relaxed and so comfortable, right? Also, my chair, I've got a pillow behind here. I have one of those memory foam pillows that I'm sitting on now, because we are sitting for a while for those people that are teaching online, right? Okay. So going back to the PowerPoint. So we can keep those things in mind. Also, our physical possessions. Look at how nice and neat and organized this closet is. No, my closet does not look anything like this, but it's something I strive for. This is a picture of my desktop when it was much more organized. So I think that this is okay, but ideally I wouldn't have all these things on my desktop. And how many files do we have that we're actually using? How many files do we have that we're actually not using, that we've just accumulated, right? So we could have this physical clutter and this digital clutter that is taking up space and taking up, almost like taking up rent in our mind, right? So we have next, finances. So do you know how you're spending your money? Are you consciously choosing how you're spending your money, or are you kind of on autopilot? I think it's really easy to get into the habit of something like going to Starbucks every single morning, or, just ordering the same thing every day, or one thing or another. But we can be conscious of how we spend our money. Now, this is really, really difficult, particularly with things like DoorDash, Uber Eats, Corner Shop. These things, we can get stuff delivered to us really quickly. It was my birthday in February during the pandemic. I went ahead and I found like a cookie birthday, kind of like a cookie cake with ice cream. I got it delivered to me in like 30 minutes. And I was celebrating, during the pandemic, so in quarantine. And just the fact that I could do that and get that so quickly, I think we have to be really, really careful with how we're spending our money. And another thing to consider, how can we spend money to make our lives better? So just like how I had this, foot pillow thing, I spent this money and it makes me so happy. It makes me so much more comfortable when teaching from home. All right. So now we have free time activities. So I think it's really easy to get caught in being the identity of a teacher, but we are actual human beings. So do you get outside to do something? Do you meet with friends to play board games or do some type of hobby? Is there some type of skill that you like doing that isn't related with teaching that you practice in your free time? That's an important part of self-care. Going out, being social, and doing these things that we enjoy, right? And our last thing, spirituality and community. So I always remember a teacher during my first teaching job. So there were a group of teachers that were very gossipy and things like that I didn't really enjoy working with. And she saw that I was kind of isolated. I also lived alone. It was my first year teaching. My mom had cancer at that time. I was really going through a lot. And so one day she pulled me aside and she said, it seems like you're troubled. It seems like you have a lot going on and I worry about you. And she actually invited me to her church and she said, if you don't want to accept the invitation, that's perfectly fine. But I think that it's really important for you to find some type of community. And she acknowledged that in some ways, religion has been used and kind of weaponized against groups of people. She said, it's really important for you to find some type of community, find some type of group, because she said, idle time is really, really bad. And she actually made a comparison to the devil. She was quite religious. And that was one thing that really, really stuck with me. And so what is your community, right? How are you connecting with people, right? Maybe you don't believe in God, but maybe you believe in some type of higher power, right? And I think that having these connections to people is a real key to happiness and taking care of ourselves. So I've done a lot of talking, and now I'd like to hear from people in the audience here. So we're going to go to a Padlet, and I'd like to know, which domain or domains do you feel you're doing well with? Which domains are challenging for you? And what are the factors contributing to the challenge? Is there any way you could spend some money to make any one of your challenges easier to deal with? And what is one step you could take to deal with one of your challenges related to self-care? I'm going to stop sharing for 1 second. And Christina, if you haven't already, could you please share that in the chat?
I did. So that Padlet link is in the chat, so you all can access it right now. Click on the link, and let's see how we're doing in these different domains.
All right. Is everyone able to access that?
Just give us a quick yes, I'm in, or no, I'm not in the chat. Great.
Okay.
Thank you, Ida.
Excellent. I haven't been able to see the chat because I've been sharing my screen. I see there are some comments in here about friends.
Yes, I'm in. Thank you so much. Thank you for your feedback.
Excellent. Perfect. All right. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again, and I will share the Padlet, and we can see it update as people are posting. 1 moment. Where is it? Okay. So we see someone says they're doing okay in terms of spirituality and the physical dimension. Okay, a person says focusing on small amounts of money as much as you can. All right, I see some more people connecting up here at the top. If you haven't used it before, you can click on the plus sign here. You can go ahead and type your idea and then click publish, and it'll appear there for everyone to see. If you agree with something, you can also add a like. Right? I see, someone talked about the idea of connecting with friends. I think that is challenging, particularly with the pandemic. We've been doing it online for so long, but now I don't know how much people want to connect online. And meeting in person, is it safe to do so? All right, so we see Aida says she's doing okay with family, home environment, and physical possessions. She shared that spiritual free time activities, work relationships are a little challenging for her. Okay. Someone also commented giving the proper time to spending money. So I guess maybe managing your money and thinking about how you're managing it. Okay. Someone indicated organizing themselves a little bit better. Yeah, I think if we put a little bit of effort into organizing our time, organizing our finances, our space, it becomes easier if we do it every once in a while, once a week, something like that. Excellent. So I see.
And again,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry, Daniel. I was just going to point out again that if you are joining us right now, what we're doing is we're answering questions in this Padlet. I put the link again in the chat, so you can go ahead and click on that, and you can start answering some of these questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Christina. And I see Adolfonso says that he or she is great with work relationships, home environment, and digital possessions. Right, so they feel like they're doing well with that. Okay, free time activities, spiritual and mental health is a challenge. All right. So I see an anonymous person said that one step they could take to face a challenge is look for an anchor. Yeah, so maybe like some type of routine or something that you do every single day that you know you're going to do no matter what, maybe to start your day or to end your day. Okay. Okay, so Aida talking about money. I do not think I need a lot of money to improve. I just need to make an extra effort to work on those challenges. Okay, excellent. So in your case, you don't really think that that spending money would help you face any of those challenges. Okay, excellent, excellent. Wonderful. All right, so feel free to continue contributing to this. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint, but we can go ahead and revisit this a little bit later in the presentation, right? Okay. So here we saw that Padlet. That will be open and you'll still have access afterwards. So now one thing that I found useful is a self-care record. So this is an idea I got from one of the books I'm going to share, and I've actually tweaked it and made it useful for me, and I've customized it. So this is, well, actually a bi-weekly self-care record. So this was from January 17th to January 30th of this year. So we see I have Sunday all the way for 1 week, and then Sunday to Saturday. What I did was I made a list of activities that I could do in terms of self-care. So I have deep breathing, deep relaxation, Just Dance on my Nintendo Switch, going for a bike ride, eating a salad, limiting my sugar intake that day, affirmations, making sure I have social contact with someone, journaling, sitting outside. This was also at the time of the pandemic when nobody was vaccinated yet. A game called Ring Fit Adventure for Nintendo Switch, which is actually kind of like an exercise / role-playing game, stretching, and going for a walk. I also kept track of my water intake. So I have a Nalgene bottle that I use. And so every time I completed or I drank one of the complete bottles, I kept track of it. And what I did was I said, okay, I have to do at least 3 self-care activities every day. And so as you see, some I did more than others, some I didn't do at all in the end. But it worked out nicely because what I saw was that journaling and social contact was something that worked really, really well for me, that I was able to do consistently. Keeping track of my water intake was also very good for me. So then what happened was after 2 weeks, I could go into this Word document and I could go ahead and make changes. So I remember that when I worked with some people before, they said that this would be too overwhelming for them. So that for them, they would prefer to have 3 or 4 activities that they had to do, non-negotiables, and they would check those off. That could be another way of using a self-care record, right? So now a big thing, journaling. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second, and I'd like to take a look at the chat here. So how many people here actually currently journal in one way or another? Anyone at all? Okay. I see Laurel says she does.
Good. We have some answers.
Okay, Marcella. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would like to show you, okay, does the Facebook wall count? That could kind of be a way of journaling. Okay. Yeah, so, okay, Aida was asking me to repeat the question.
So,
how many people
do
journal?
You currently journal?
Yeah.
I put that in the chat there so you can see the question. Someone says rarely.
Okay.
Jessica says rarely, not so often.
Okay. So the first time I journaled was probably when I was an exchange student in Germany in high school. And I was given a journal as a gift. And it was really, really helpful getting through that year, cultural differences and things. Okay, Ada says she hasn't been journaling, but you have been recording herself at the end of the day about how she's felt. Okay, kind of like audio journaling. Okay, Making art can be a way of journaling? Okay, yeah, excellent. So, I have been journaling since I've arrived here in Chile. February will be 12 years. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I'm currently on my 10th journal. So,
Wow.
so I see a comment that I'm disciplined.
That's amazing.
This is not something I necessarily do every single day. Sometimes I just write about the positive things that happen in my day. Sometimes I just write what I'm grateful for. If I'm going through some type of challenge, I can say, I don't know what to do in this situation. I don't know if I should stay at this job, leave this job. I don't know if I should continue teaching this student or this group of students. What are my options? And so just writing it out, I found this been really, really helpful for me. And I mean, it's crazy because our thoughts are so powerful. I remember a time when I was teaching in San Diego, and there was a student whose mother was verbally abusive to me over the phone, screaming at me, yelling at me. And it got to the point where I was afraid to go to the mall because I was afraid of running into the student's mom at the mall. That's where my mental health was at that point. And when I wrote that out in my journal, I realized how ridiculous that was. What was the reality of that happening? We had never met in person, so how would she recognize me? But that was the point that I was at. So, going back to sharing my screen. All right, 1 moment. So, journaling is a tool for self-care. This is a way to process what we are going through. I think we all go through really difficult things in life, and we don't talk with people about it. It's not like, hey, how's it going? It's like, and you just say, oh, I just had a miscarriage or something like that. You don't talk about those things. And, or, when you go through incredibly difficult things, you don't talk about it, but you can write about it. A journal is not going to judge you. It's not going to tell you to get over it, things like that. And putting your thoughts on paper gives them less power. Like I told you, the situation, with my, extreme anxiety about going to the mall. And recognizing what's going right and what we're grateful for. It's so powerful when we're going through difficult situations. So I don't think anyone here knew this except for Rachel, but I had something happen with my Pfizer vaccine. Got my 3rd dose, and I made a mistake because I ended up getting my doses too close together. I had chills and I had body aches all day Thursday. And then I felt a tightness in my lungs, and I had pain when I was breathing Thursday night going into Friday morning. I went to the emergency room. So it was incredibly difficult. Obviously, I'm doing this in another country, but I had Uber drivers that were patient with me. Everyone at the hospital, they were patient. They were very gentle with me. They explained things. They repeated it in Spanish. It turns out the security guard that was sitting there, he used to be an English teacher. So he was making conversation with me while I was waiting. And then afterwards, when I was waiting for an Uber to pick me up. So that was one reason why I wasn't at the conference on Friday, in terms of needing to take care of myself, rest as much as I wanted to be there, so that way I could be fully present Saturday and today. So I see Fernanda talking about, isn't it a way to deal with your thoughts and feelings? Yes. Yes. And this is the thing, just getting them down on paper is very cathartic. It really helps you to process things. All right, so going back to sharing my screen. And so this is the thing. So I went through this incredibly difficult situation, going to the emergency room, but I had so much to be thankful for. I have health insurance that covered a lot of this. I have credit cards to cover, what I didn't have. I wasn't to the point where I had to take an ambulance. I was able to pack up my book bag, take some books with me, take medication with me, my cell phone charger, those things that we consider essentials now in case if I was going to be admitted. So another thing, we all have this inner voice in our head, and it's really powerful. But it's not always very nice to us. And we're really critical of ourselves, right? And we're much more critical of ourselves than other people ever usually are. Now, if we do find people that are very critical of us, they don't really deserve our attention, right? So now, if we can recognize that inner critic, and if we can stop it or get to speak to ourselves more kindly, it can really help us take care of ourselves, right? So now this is the thing. This inner critic comes from our childhood. Typically parents, teachers, or someone that was in some position of authority over us. So one thing that I learned about myself in therapy was that I never felt like I could ever take a break. And what that went back to was preparing for kindergarten. So the teacher gave all the parents a set of worksheets and things for students to do to prepare them. And I remember I had to color something and cut it out. And I was cutting it out and I felt tired. And I said to my mom, can I take a break? And she said in a stern voice, no, you have to finish this. And so in her mind, I can see that she wanted me to be prepared for kindergarten. But the message that I got from that was, I need to work. I can't take a break. It doesn't matter if I'm tired. So now I recognize that about myself. So here are some journaling prompts that can help you if you're just getting started with self-care. These can be journaling prompts. These can also be things that you might just think in your head. What do I absolutely have to do today? What things can I complete, not to the best of my ability, but at a good enough level? I think as teachers, we can be very, very guilty of this. Every PowerPoint that we do, everything that we do, we want it to be perfect. And I remember I was doing this, preparing a PowerPoint for a student that really loves Disney characters. And I was starting to stress out that things were not lined up perfectly, and it didn't have every single character from a particular show. And I thought to myself, you know what? I think Felipe is going to be okay if they're not lined up perfectly and if there's a character missing. And I took that weight off of me and I said, you know what? This is going to be good enough. What possibilities do I have moving forward? Right? So I had a situation come up where a student wanted to cancel a bunch of classes that he had already paid for. And so I understood he had a legitimate reason for wanting to cancel the classes, but at the same time, I had reserved those times for him. So I said to him, all right, I hear what you're saying. Let me get back to you and let me think about a solution and something that's going to be fair to both of us. Another thing, what would happen if I ignored this? Those internet trolls, those people that maybe make a not so kind comment on a Facebook post, if you could just let that go, your life is so much easier. But now, imagine your car is making a funny noise. What would happen if you just decide to turn off the radio and ignore it? That would probably have some worse consequences, right? Or if you have a pain somewhere in your body, what would happen if you ignored it? Maybe it's just something, from the day, but maybe it's a sign of something worse. If you get a rude comment from a store employee, maybe they're just having a bad day. Is it really going to be worth, engaging in an argument with them? And this is something that I really, really like. How can I add beauty, comfort, convenience, or kindness to an activity or obligation? So I'd like to show you something that I found online that I absolutely love. So these are mop slippers. I absolutely hate cleaning the floor of my apartment It is wood floor throughout, with the exception of the kitchen and bathroom, and it gets dirty all the time. But I bought these. I can wear this with socks, and when I'm walking around my apartment, I'm cleaning the floor at the same time. So, and they were sold in a set of 5, so when I have friends over, I can have them also wear them, and they, have these fun, colorful things to wear.
That is so funny.
And at the same time, they're also helping clean the floor. So, there's one thing. What some people do is they will do their cleaning while they're listening to an audiobook, or while they're listening to music or a podcast. Some people will say, you know what? I can only listen to this podcast when I'm cleaning or when I'm on the treadmill, things like that. Right. Let's see what I'm going to take a quick look at my notes. Yeah. Another thing. So if you have a big project you're working on. So in a perfect world, we would eat healthy all the time. In a perfect world, I would have salads, every day of the week and all that. I'm not perfect. I don't think anyone is. So when I was working on this presentation last weekend, I went ahead, I ordered Peruvian food. I ordered 3 dishes. And so I had it Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to worry about cooking. And that was something that I allowed myself to do. Artwork, photos in your home, your workspace. So I had to go and close a credit card, and I had to deal with some bureaucracy at the mall. When was it? Earlier this week. So I decided every time I go to the mall, I have to take care of something I don't want to take care of. I let myself either go to Johnny Rockets or another restaurant that I like as a reward. Right? And so this way I'm adding something, giving myself a reward for doing something that I'm not looking forward to. Right? All right, sharing my screen again. One moment. All right. And another thing, what can I do or not do now to guard my energy and take care of myself? So September was a quite stressful month for me, and I'm usually very disciplined about keeping track of my finances. But I had this pile of receipts sitting there, and I hadn't logged them or registered them. I said, you know what? I know my finances are fine this month. I went ahead, I went through the receipts. I saved the few that were important. Everything else, I just recycled it. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to do my finances the rest of this month. I'm going to start fresh in October. And another thing that I use from time to time, I tell people I'm in low energy mode or power saving mode. And so I limit the obligations that I have, the extra things that I say yes to. Maybe I'll do that 1 week a month. And people will understand, you know what, I just need to conserve my energy for this time. So these are things you could use as journaling prompts or just things that you can think of in your head, right? All right, boundaries. So I'm going to speed up a little bit just because of time, and I want to give time for questions. So I think we all know we cannot control other people's actions, but we can control how we react. If someone gets angry at a boundary we've set, it's usually their issue, not ours. I've seen this when I have a cancellation policy for my classes of 24 hours. And some students don't like that, even though they've signed the contract. And establishing our boundaries clearly helps people see what we accept and what we don't accept in personal and professional relationships. Now, I'm not suggesting having a contract in terms of a romantic relationship, or like Sheldon Cooper with his roommate agreement in The Big Bang Theory, but having an honest conversation about your expectations, right? It's not always easy to get these boundaries right, especially if we're just starting to establish them or if we're dealing with someone we don't know well. This can also be cultural. In the United States, we are quite organized with things. Here in Chile, things are more fluid. And so the idea of a student seeing a contract and asking them to sign it can be a little bit scary for them. And we can be afraid to set boundaries. But what is the worst case scenario if we set a boundary? Right? That's one thing I try to keep in mind if I'm having difficulty with it. And if we haven't communicated our expectations in advance, it opens up the door for people to take advantage of us. I find this applying particularly when I'm teaching freelance. So I need to think through what my expectations are, what could go wrong, and what I expect to happen in those cases. Some types of boundaries: when and how people can contact you. Do all of your students' parents have your cell phone number? Are you comfortable with them having your cell phone number? Have you communicated what times they're available to call you or send you a WhatsApp message? If you teach privately, do you have a cancellation policy? When do you read emails and phone notifications? How much time do you allow yourself to respond? Right? The amount of support you give to struggling students. Sometimes unpaid staff meetings come up outside of your work hours. What do you do if you have a previous commitment? Do you attend or do you not attend? How you let other people talk to you. So I have had some students that have been very rude and very disrespectful to me. And at that time I said, that's not okay. You cannot talk to me that way. Please send me your banking details. I'll give you a report of what we've done in classes, and I will refund you the amount of money that is remaining. So this is the nice thing. We can choose our boundaries. So here are some things that we can think through. How much time do you give to respond to emails? When teaching private classes, when is payment due? Under what circumstances, if any, do you make exceptions to a cancellation policy or to a project or homework deadline? How much flexibility do you provide? And what do you do if someone is pressuring you to say yes to something if you're not sure what to do? What I found in this case is I'll say, okay, thank you for letting me know. Let me think about it. I'll get back to you a little bit later today or tomorrow. I think when we're in a high pressure situation, we want to say yes, but then we're locked into that commitment that maybe we will regret later. All right, self-care as an educator. Here is a picture of my setup that I had last year. So off here to the right, you see my hydration station with my water bottle and my cup of tea. So we see I have my remote here for my air conditioner, which is off to the right. I have some extra sugar-free gum to chew on. So that way I'm trying to avoid all those sugary things. I have some stress balls to help me that I can be squeezing that my students can't see off camera. I have a laptop desk that actually sets things up so I'm looking straight ahead. That way I'm not looking down. I have a little set up here to put my cell phone that I can see. My meds are right there. That way I remember to take them, right? I just have everything laid out for taking notes. Here's my calendar. So I've really put a lot of thought into organizing my physical space, right, for teaching online. Some other things I do. I allow 15-minute breaks between my classes. I will not teach one class right after another. A few reasons for this. One, what do you do if a student runs late or if they genuinely need more help, right? But you have one class right up against another. That way I allow if I need to take an extra 5 or 10 minutes. Two, we need bathroom breaks or if we want to get a quick snack. Another thing that I do, so this is from Bath & Body Works. I got this little hand cream. And just being able to use something like this to put on my hands between classes, it's a nice way of refreshing. Also, they have these, facial wipes. I got these from the States and I brought them back with me. Just stepping away for, that 15 minutes, going ahead, cleaning off my face and not having my face on the screen. It's a really nice way to re-energize between classes. So, for me, that 15-minute break is a non-negotiable. If it's an emergency, I will set things up in order to teach back-to-back, but I'll say I might need 5 minutes, something like that. All right, some other things. One moment, sharing my screen again. As you see, I have an organized physical space. Comfortable working conditions with online teaching. So when I think of this, I also think of the temperature of the area I'm working in. So here in Chile, we don't really have central heating or central air conditioning. I actually went ahead and I bought a space air conditioner. And so I haven't had that until last summer. And that has transformed feeling comfortable in my apartment. Routines for planning and administrative work. So focusmate.com is a website that will pair you up with another person for virtual co-working. And then you can work and get things done. This was also huge for me in the pandemic. Just getting out of bed. Knowing that I was going to connect with someone and that they were depending on me helped me get out of bed, get my class planning done, things like that. Obviously, a clear contract with expectations and policies. And that worked out nicely because when I had these policies and expectations clear, if I did run into problems with students, I would try to be patient, give them the benefit of the doubt. But if I continue to have problems, I could say, I'm sorry, I can no longer teach you. And one thing that I do when we're not in the middle of the pandemic, I'll take a trip out of town every other month. So one thing that I am doing, I am going to the beach Tuesday to Friday as taking a break from my teaching, and also because I'm working this weekend. Well, working in the sense of attending this conference. All right, so some thoughts for you. What things can you do to make your teaching easier? Is there any way you can spend money to make your job easier and more comfortable? Are there things your students can do to make your job easier? And can you simplify the work that you give your students, focusing on the idea of less being more? All right, so some resources. So I'm going to stop sharing here. So where did I get all these great ideas from? So these are in the handout. Outer Order, Inner Calm by Gretchen Rubin. This book is about decluttering. So we have The Body Keeps the Score. This is pretty academic. It is a pretty thick read, but it talks about trauma and how trauma is related to our body and how we can process that. An Invitation to Self-Care. This was a really, really great read about the different domains, the things we could do, setting boundaries. We have the Anxiety and Phobia Workbook. So now this is geared towards people that have challenges with their mental health. However, I found that there were so many practical tips here that I think anyone could use. Marie Kondo, The Joy of Tidying Up. If you haven't seen that on Netflix, it's a great series. Let's see here. A few other things I'm going to share my screen with. So we have, this is FocusMate. So here you can see these are the sessions that I have done with people, and these are upcoming sessions I have booked to co-work with people. Becoming Who You Are. So Hannah Brain is amazing. She was someone that really helped me start to see the importance of self-care, and she has a lot of resources here that are available. Calm, the app, which is available on phones, and let's see here. And then I think that's all of them. Yeah, Becoming Who You Are, FocusMate, Calm. So, as I mentioned, I'm one half of the ELT in Chile podcast. So we actually have a few episodes about self-care. So on our website here, you can go through, you can see the episodes that we have. We talk about different issues related to teaching, and everything we talk about is free, right? Episodes 3 and 4 are about managing your self-care, right? So I do have a Facebook page about my classes and workshops. I have been taking a break from workshops for a little bit, but I am going to be starting up. And obviously each other. So self-care, it's not a luxury. There's no right way to do this. We need to be mindful. What we need is going to change over time. And we need to take care of ourselves so we can give our students the best experience possible. Here are the topics we saw. What questions are there?
Well, let's see. Unfortunately, I think we've run right into our time slot limit. So it's 1:16, at least for me in Mexico. So
my goodness.
right now, if you can see over on the left-hand side, there was so much that you covered, Daniel. It was amazing. So if you see on the left-hand side, it's time for networking and the expo hall. If you're joining on a computer, it should be on your left-hand side. It says now in a little red bubble above networking and the expo hall. Okay, so unfortunately, we don't have time for questions in a normal setting, as in you can turn your camera on and ask questions in that sense. But if you would like to connect with Daniel, you can go into the People tab and send him a direct message. Okay, if you would like to maybe get his email, if you would like to continue a conversation later on with him, you can go ahead and do that. Okay,
I believe
so
also
I'm going
my
to have to
contact-
close this session up.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead,
I believe
Daniel.
also in the
Go
handout,
ahead.
you'll find my information. So yeah, it looks like someone's asking for the presentation handout again. The link is there, is not available.
It's
Oh my
pinned.
gosh.
Mhm.
Okay.
So you're going to have to copy that link. So you're right. It's not a clickable link, but if you copy it, you just take your mouse over it and copy it and then paste it into your browser, it should give you the PDF. Okay, so go ahead and try that for me. And if it's not working for you, then we'll put it again in the chat. Okay. Okay. Eva said you did. Okay. Is it working?
Okay, still not working.
I'm going to try it too. Let's see.
Okay.
All right. For me, I see the PDF. I just tried it right now.
Okay.
Okay.
So it
Let's
says
see.
it's,
Yes, it is working, just like I said. Okay. But Eva said no, there's no access. Okay. So let me just put this here again. So there
Sure.
is the PDF. Okay. So if you copy just what's there in my chat message, you should be able to find the PDF. Okay. Just copy and paste it into your browser as if you were searching.
What I'll do, I'll put my so there's my email. If anyone
go.
would like a copy of this, I can go ahead and send it from my email. Just go ahead and write me, and I'm more than happy to do this. Also, any questions you have, feel free to email me. Right. Oh my gosh, it looks like some people are having trouble. Okay, anyone having trouble accessing it, go ahead, write me contact@danielguim.com, and then I'll make sure you get a copy of that.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Christina. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here.